now we straight chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another spicy episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode 433, recorded on Sunday, July 22nd, 2023. Tonight we're talking about the winner of the June poll, which was Paprika from 2006. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got your boy Randy Z. What's up, man?
How's it going, buddy? Good to talk to you. Good to see
Likewise.
you. How's it holding up?
Holding up well. This was your poll takeover month.
Yeah,
So
it was.
It's all about you today, Diddy.
Oh boy, I can feel it too. I really feel how today is all about me.
It's an all Randy episode. Get ready for it.
Man, this is just my id on audio recording right now. That's all this is.
Hell yeah. Last but not least, calling in from Seoul, South Korea, we got your boy Soju. What's up, man?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Senpai Stains. Sumimasen, that's Japanese, right, Bob? You've been there, you know all the Japanese, don't you?
I basically am Japanese now. I was there for like a week, so I'm fluent. And
you remember all the places in this movie, right? In Japan, remember?
Yeah, I saw all of them.
Places, yeah, the jungle.
I know the jungle. I lived there.
Yes, the jungle of Japan.
Yes.
Randy, how excited are you to talk about drawings tonight?
I gotta be honest with you. I don't feel too excited about anything right now. I'm a little under the weather, so if my energy is low, that's why. But yeah, no, I am excited.
Randy, come on, pick it up.
I should get some cocaine. That seems like the only solution available, really.
We should all get cocaine.
Spicy.
And yeah, I don't know. Like, I am psyched to talk about this. This was my takeover month, my poll pick. I picked 3 animated films, and this one handily won. So I was excited to see this one because it's definitely just one that was not fully on my radar. So yeah, I think we should get into it.
Nice. Let's get all over that radar. But before we do, let's tackle a little bit of housekeeping real quick.
All right.
Here's another reminder. We do have our August poll currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get a chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this August. The theme for August is robot murder. The 3 movies to vote on are The Terminator, RoboCop, and Prometheus.
Whoa, Bob. How those numbers looking? Prometheus still winning.
Yep, stomping some dick.
Why did you ask for the numbers? You just,
just going through the motions.
Shut up, Bob. Let me answer this for you.
Bob Juice. How are those numbers looking?
Ask yourself. In the third person, Terminator came up a little bit, but not too much. Not enough.
Well, that's weird, but whatever. Bob tried to rig a poll, and try to get some classics in there. He failed, so that's okay.
Fucked it up. I got fucked. Yeah, a little over a week left to vote on it. Get your votes in, and we'll see what we're talking about this August.
Nice.
We dropped a mini cast last Friday. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to a whole back catalog of Patreon exclusive episodes. This was number 103, I think, so we got a shitload on there. I was talking about Candyland last Friday. It's a new horror movie, came out in January of this year.
The man from Bounty Land.
Damn,
throwback. That
took me a second.
Great.
My brain was like, wait a second.
I recognize those lyrics from that glorious
definitely
song.
recognize those lyrics.
Some of the best lyrics in all pop music.
Late night drives.
It's weird late night drives.
And it's very
It doesn't
topical.
come normal when you're playing that shit.
With Barbie being out, Barbie
It's
Girl
It's
right
was
on
aqua
right
too.
on topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey
Time
Pop,
to
tell us
bust
about
that
the
old
movie
album out.
Candyland now. Now that I'm done derailing
Candyland.
us.
It's a cool take on a slasher movie that you should totally check out.
Is it about the board
Alright.
game?
No, it's about a group of prostitutes or sex workers that are living at a truck stop. And they're doing their thing, and people start dying and trying to
That
figure out.
doesn't sound as nice as the board game.
It's
Is it like
not
an
quite
inversion
as
of
nice.
Joyride? Because the candy canes rise up against our boy.
Not
Rusty
quite.
Nail.
Not
That's a
exactly.
shame. That's a
Not
goddamn
exactly.
shame.
Yeah.
It's a motherfucking
Should have been
shame.
like a prequel.
It should have been like Steve Zahn in full drag fighting back with his
Dude, it should
prostitution
have been
clan.
that. You're
The
It
right.
should have been what it
prequel.
was.
Especially now that Steve Zahn's like in his 60s or whatever, that would be
Oh,
that'd
yeah.
make a lot of sense.
Steve Zahn's like the progression of that character has been very, 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 very rugged terrain he's had to traverse these last 20 years.
I am Candy Cane. Just
That's a
murdering
movie we
folks with
need to
candy
write.
canes. All right, let me call them boys on right now.
Got it.
Hey,
I'll get him on the horn.
Steve.
We are dropping another minicast. August 4th is going to be the next one, and I'm talking about Wrath of Becky, which is another solid movie that you should watch.
Nice. I still haven't seen that original one.
Check them out.
Actually, I
Check
think I was
them
listening
out.
to an episode recently though, where you were talking about Becky. Maybe that's weird. Much
Yeah.
to my mind.
Sometimes I'm just talking. You can't
Yeah.
shut me up.
Thank
Sometimes.
God somebody's got to.
God damn. Audio podcast. Love it. In other Patreon news, we do have a brand new Patreon supporter. We got to give some mad shouts outs to your boy Drew M. Thank you so much for signing up on Patreon and showing us some love. All the money you guys contribute goes right back into the show. It really helps us keep this thing rolling. As is tradition around these parts, we owe Drew the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to you.
Slap me in the ass.
Thank you, man.
Ooh,
our
thank you,
asses
Drew.
have
We
been
appreciate
nice
it.
and smacked these past few weeks.
Hell
Hurt
yeah.
Red, Rosie.
Slap
The
the
way
shit
you
out of
like
us.
Yeah,
Extra sloppy.
I guess.
I don't know. That's your preference, not mine. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna
that's
sign up for
that's
that
your
one.
problem. It sounds like no.
Sloppy Joe asses is my fucking problem.
It
Yes.
is not in the file.
Mine is not sloppy.
Boy. That is all the Patreon news we got. Juice, you got anything you want to plug?
Well, I mean, we did just drop a bonus episode last Friday. That was our wrap up of the Be Fun Film Festival. We have one more thing specific to Be Fun that's coming out this Friday. That's going to be one more interview that I did with another director, Weijun Cho, who is the director of Hungry Ghost Diner out of Malaysia. That's going to be coming out this Friday, and that's probably all the Be Fun coverage, like total. I think that's going to be mostly it. Maybe a couple more things coming out on YouTube, just like some Q&As that I was able to be a part of or like visit or something like that. But our main like talking about coverage or review coverage, I think that's going to be it. So yeah, it's one more piece coming out this weekend. I had a really great chat with him. He's like a really nice guy. He made a really cool movie that I've really enjoyed this year. I've seen it a few times actually. And yeah, it's just a fun chat. So that's going to be coming out this Friday, and we will be finally finished with Be Fun. So also shouts outs to everyone who came out to our Summer Chills event that happened this past Saturday night at the DCC Cafe in Seoul. It was a lot of fun. We did a double feature. We watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Whispering Corridors. We wanted to split it up, one English movie, one Korean movie. But as I was playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I realized like maybe I should have played this one second because it's a board game cafe. So we had like a section for the film and everything like that. There were still like a few people playing like some games. And I realized that Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just a lot of screaming and fucking chainsaw sounds.
Oh, you realized that, huh?
And I was like, oh,
That caught up with you?
Yeah, so it was pretty funny actually, because there was just this one group that had like a group of kids, and one time they like had to go to the bathroom, so they like scoot by. I thought they were leaving. I thought the parents were like taking them out, but actually they like came back. I think there's just like a bathroom break. It was like cracking me up. But yeah, it was fun. A lot of people that came had never seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So that
Nice.
was kind of a proud moment for me. I was
man.
like, yeah, this one's fucking one of the best.
How did they feel about our boy Franklin? Were they heartbroken?
So we did a double feature. We took like a little 30-minute break in between the movies, got some food, got some drinks and stuff like that. We didn't specifically talk about Franklin. We were talking about some other horror films, Park Chan-wook and Godzilla's and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'll have to get back with them on old Franklin, but nobody
Yeah,
cheered when
send
he
out a
died
survey.
except for me. Yeah.
Except for me.
But
Franklin,
yeah,
yay or
people
nay?
were like crazy, especially when he does his freak out in the house of like the spit takes or whatever. Yeah, people were
Mhm.
digging on that, cracking up. So shouts outs to Angel too. She won the raffle, and she also, I remember last year, won trivia or was part of the team that won trivia. So she's fucking killing it. She won the raffle this weekend. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. So thanks everyone for coming out. It was a lot of fun just hanging out, kind of kicking off the spooky season for me too. And it was a dark, rainy night and just hanging out with everyone, having some good drinks, watching scary movies. So thanks everyone for coming out. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
Nice.
Ray and Deezy, you got anything?
Yeah, just a couple things. So, that episode of Light and Shadow podcast that I was fortunate to guest on, reviewing The Mist, with our buddy Nicole, that is out now. She also did me the courtesy of sending me a Blu-ray copy of The Mist that has the black and white version that I missed out
Nice.
on, and I've gotten to see that, and that is basically my what you've been watching section. So there you go.
Nice.
How
and
was
then,
it? Did it live up to your hype?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, like it was maybe I built it up a little bit in my head because I had just watched this movie, so like some of that impact was already kind of dulled. But I feel like that's going to be the edition I watch next time around. Next time I get the urge, for
Cool.
sure. It's pretty cool. I like that. I mean, it just suits that movie so well. And then speaking of black and white and speaking of guesting on podcasts, got word today that as we sit here recording this, my friend and yours, Caitlin, over at Plug It Up Podcast, is editing that Whatever Happened to Baby Jane episode of Plug It Up, which I was on, and we got to talk about Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, one of my favorite older sort of thrillery, psychological thriller movies. We had a lot of fun, so keep an ear out for those two things, those guest spots.
Cool.
That's it for me, though.
Hollywood
Nice.
Randu.
Last thing I want to mention real quick is thanks for everybody who hung out this past Friday for our Joe Bob watch party. It was the season 5 finale. So we're wrapped up for Joe Bob for this season, probably until October, when I'm sure he's going to do another Halloween special of some sort. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. Information coming soon, I'm sure.
He closed out on some bangers.
Yeah, it was a zombie double feature, The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue and Day of the Dead.
Cool. Oh, Day of the Dead, Bob. That's one you've been jonesing for lately.
Dude, just owner alert.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and close this segment off on that lovely note.
I was pointing to the Day of the Dead poster behind me. The house is clean.
I did not.
I'm sure that came off very well on the audio podcast that we are putting out right
now. Cool. Yeah, the house is clean. Let's get into the main event. We're talking about Paprika, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, Bob, how many editions do you have?
Just the one.
Bob, you didn't pick up a Japanese version while you were in Japan?
I was looking for a Japanese laser disc, but they're like $8,000, so I got this lame Blu-ray instead.
Bob, I'm
You're
going
never
back
gonna be
soon.
at the top of your physical media game.
In a couple weeks, if you got any special requests.
Buy me all the VHS so I can sell them in the States and then be rich.
What did you did get something in Japan while we were there last time, didn't you? What did you get?
I did. I got the Japanese DVD version of Godzilla '98.
Oh,
the best Godzilla movie.
To fuck off.
And I also got a Japanese version of Halloween 2.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to
It's a
get
good
a
shit.
Godzilla from every country, Bob. Just
Yeah. That's
98.
that's just
I
a
like
goal
that.
that somebody
Nine-
should certainly have in life.
I'll
I
keep
like-
an eye out here in Korea. You know.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is your life really complete until you have the Nordic edition of Matthew Broderick in Godzilla?
No, that's not. Paprika. Yeah, I got it on Blu-ray here. This was from 2006, rated R with a runtime of an hour and 30 minutes. Directed by Satoshi Kon. Stars a bunch of glorious names that I'm not going to butcher. Plot synopsis brought to you by the back of the box is as follows. Prepare to enter the realm of fantasy and imagination, where reality and dreams collide in a kaleidoscopic mindscape of sheer visual genius. The magical tale centers on a revolutionary machine that allows scientists to enter and record a subject's dream. After it is stolen, a fearless detective and brilliant therapist join forces to recover the device before it falls into the hands of a dream terrorist in this gripping anime thriller from acclaimed director Satoshi Kon. Gentlemen, had you seen this before, and would you recommend people check it out? Brandeezy, kick us off.
Yeah, like I said before, this was a new watch for me. I included it on this poll partially in hopes that I would get to see this. That's why it's on there. So we have seen Perfect Blue. We've reviewed that here on the podcast, and that's what certainly interested me in that, and it's the much amount of praise that I've seen for this movie, or at least notations. Lots of people talk about this movie. So, having now seen it, I would say that, yeah, I think it's probably worth a watch if you're into any level of like a good solid like feature animation, because the animation in this is pretty goddamn killer. It's a really, really fluid animation style. It's just as good, if not better, than they did with Perfect Blue, for those familiar with that. So yeah, I would recommend, but on that same level, it's also not a movie that's going to work for everybody. It's very, very confusing plotting wise. So yeah, you kind of have to be in the right, you have to have the right flavors in your palate for this one, I think. But generally, I would say that those people who like this sort of thing are going to dig it.
Right on. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, this is a first watch for me. I had never seen this before, and it's a visual feast. It looks beautiful, and it's very interesting. Definitely, like I think maybe we mentioned this before. It might come up in the discussion and trivia, but there's definitely some scenes where you could see inspired Inception, and this was pretty interesting. And but yeah, like Randy said, this is, this it's like a dish that is very delicious, but also very rich, where it's I found myself, even though I was enjoying myself watching this, it was also difficult to get through because it's a lot. And I don't think this is a particularly accessible film for a lot of people, even though there's nothing too gruesome going on, or it's just like it's a little overwhelming in just everything, just a narrative, visuals, and sound design. Like it's just a lot going on. So it's kind of hard to recommend. I think this is for a particular viewer and probably someone who's already partially inclined to like watch anime or animated films like this, Japanese animated films. So I don't know, kind of. I wouldn't sway anyone from watching it, but it would be hard to just generally recommend, So, yeah. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check out Paprika?
Not particularly, no. It was definitely a first time watch for me as well, and I think we all really thoroughly enjoyed Perfect Blue. So I was pretty excited to check this one out. It is beautiful though. The movie's like incredible to look at. If you're super into anime, you absolutely should watch it. But I don't know that it really paid off for me in the end. I enjoyed watching it too, though. I wasn't like a slog to get through necessarily, but I felt kind of like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze at the end for me, anyways. That sounds like a pretty not recommend. Very light,
Middle,
light
I
recommend.
think it's a medium. We've gone We've gone
Yeah,
easier
I think
on
yeah,
worse films. I
last
think,
week.
so.
Medium.
Medium,
recommend.
I think so. Yeah.
We'll give it a medium. All right. So yeah, we're gonna spoil the shit out of this movie, and here comes your warning.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, this might be one of the few times I was actively anticipating this plot synopsis. But even before the cast, I was thinking, like, how is Bob gonna do this?
How the
Yeah,
fuck?
it's a man.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
So I'm
I don't
curious.
know how they store. I don't know how they like wrote this.
Me
story.
neither,
Like,
honestly.
like,
That's
They
yeah, part of
did
my
it.
wrote the
discussion.
storyboards.
Yeah. So all right, Bob, take it away.
All right. Hopefully this makes sense. All right. In the near future, a newly created device called the DC Mini.
Whoa, a little slower. I'm in trouble following here.
The DC Mini allows
Doc. We ain't scientists.
allows the user to view people's dreams. Okay. Dr. Atsuko Chiba begins using the machine illegally to help psychiatric patients outside the research facility that she works at by assuming her dream world alter ego named Paprika. She begins counseling Detective Konakawa, who has a bizarre Konakawa.
Okay.
I might be butchering that. Who has a bizarre recurring dream. 3 DC minis end up being stolen, which is extremely dangerous because they're going to allow the thieves to enter anybody's dreams they want. Dr. Shima goes on a very nonsensical rant and jumps through a window, nearly killing himself. Upon examining his dream, Tokita realizes his assistant Himuro, which confirms the theft, was an inside job. When 2 other scientists fall victim to the DC Mini, the chairman, Dr. Inui, bans the use of all the devices. This fails to save the inventor of the DC Mini, Tokita. He ends up being killed. Paprika and Shima discover that Himuro, these fucking names, is only an empty shell. The real culprit is Inui, who believes that he must protect dreams with the help of Dr. Osanai. Osanai ends up capturing Paprika and confesses his love for Chiba, which is her real life person, not her dream person. Dreams and reality then begin to merge, and the dream parade that we see all throughout the movie takes to the streets, the real life streets. Tokita, in the form of a giant robot, eats Chiba. Inui returns as a giant humanoid ghost demon thing and promises to darken the entire world. Paprika throws herself into Tokita's body, and a little baby's born. The baby sucks up Inui, who ends up growing to be this giant woman that looks kind of like Chiba and kind of like Paprika. Finally, Paprika sits next to Tokita's bedside as he wakes up, and Detective Konakawa visits a website that Paprika earlier suggested to him, where he finds a message from her recommending he end up going to the theater and watch a movie called Dreaming Kids, and he does, and he enjoys it. And there's like kind of a backstory where he didn't want to go to the movies anymore because he connected it to his partner that passed away. So it was like part of his dream that he was working through. I don't know. That might not have made much sense, but that's roughly.
It's
What
okay,
happened?
Bob. That's not your fault.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
lord.
So this is like I have in the past, or we have received some praise, which I take no pleasure in relaying to you now, that we are able to break down movies into kind of thoughtful segments and sort of like analyze them
Not
well.
anymore.
To whatever extent that was true, that is not true with this movie. I have no fucking idea what this movie is about, and I have nothing
really?
intelligent to add to that. Yeah,
I'll explain it to you.
Okay, all right. Thanks for explaining it to me, boss. I appreciate it.
Teach
no,
me,
this is-
senpai.
Yeah, this is a very strange plotted movie, and it's really weird because it's got like some like kind of like hard rules. Like it does a lot of like laying the groundwork of exposition of how things work, but then like the way that they depict things working is a little incongruous with that, or like or they'll do things without explaining it sometimes. I don't know, man. It was very hard for me to parse this in the same way, like Bob, you brought up Inception. Inception was hard to parse. It took me a while to really understand what I wanted to take out of that movie. And I'm not sure still, after seeing this just a couple days ago, that I have a solid thesis statement that I would ascribe to this movie. Do you guys feel differently than that?
Well, and Inception has definitely a lot, like, I feel like more grounded rules, at least, or at least it like straight up says with
For sure.
time and depth and
You don't have people turning into robots and
No.
babies and ghost demons and crazy fucking shit. Like,
yeah, I mean, really, the only thing that I saw like through this was I like kind of the weaving of the idea of, because the device is created as a way to like work through therapies, like your kind
Sure.
of like your subconscious mind, like what is actually bothering you that you can't like face yourself, and it underlies, and in that way that stays kind of consistent through each character that we see, as the whether it's a dream or as the dreams become more alive. I feel like that stays like pretty consistent, I guess. And it is definitely the case for our main characters, being the doctor woman who discovers like her love for this guy that she works with, the detective who, you know, figures out his repressed situation with his partner and the idea of films and stuff, and even the
Mhm.
head of the company who is paralyzed, and in this way like feels like he has some control. He can like walk and things like that, and I don't know why, like he's kind of got this with that character. I think he's the kind of most confusing to me, because he has this kind of philosophy about technology, and it's almost this kind of like fear slash respect for technology, where he feels it's going to be put in the wrong hands or like abused, and so he just does it, and like it's
So
almost
he
like,
abuses it.
yeah, so it's
yeah.
kind of like, if anyone's going to control it, I need to control it, because
Yeah.
otherwise it will be controlled and abused, so I'm going to
Yeah, I think
control
he
it.
fashioned himself into like I think that's all part of like plotting a mislead for him. Like they position him early as being just like, as he says, like just
The
sort of anti
chairman.
this new technology, afraid of it falling into the wrong hands, that sort of thing. And that's fine, like because the characters kind of need that pressure to keep the story moving along to some extent. But then when it turns around and he's like secretly like behind the whole thing, and like I don't know, man. Like I'm not sure. I think that what's happening is sort of like he, somebody who has ultimate control over so much of the real world ultimately has to implement his own vision onto this, basically colonize this dream world that is
Mhm.
suddenly shared between people. Like he's not in control of this thing, and in order to prevent other people from taking control, he takes it upon himself to control it. It's this like Team America World Police philosophy where it's like, we got to do
Yeah.
this or else somebody else will and we'll be fucked.
It
It's
reminded me
like,
a lot of like Justin and his cooter hunting thing that he started, because like, we got to find all these cooters, and then it turns out like he's actually leading the cooters at the end of the day.
yes,
I'm
it's
leading them.
the leader of the
He's
Cooters.
Captain Cooter, and
How
it's what a shock to
far
find
he has
out.
fallen.
Well,
Um,
in that way too, it also does definitely deal with the idea of kind of like how you see yourself or how you project yourself, and kind of
mhm.
mashing those two things, because the whole, I mean, the film is named after this persona that this woman takes on,
Yeah.
that she kind of uses as an excuse to say like, this is the way that I help people through their therapy. But ultimately it's, as we see different people in this dreamscape world, it essentially becomes who they wish they could be, essentially. So I mean, it is, especially a movie coming out in 2006, having a world now where you have, different characters in a virtual setting, and even at any beginning of a game or even on any kind of like social media, you set up some sort of profile, or
Yeah.
you have some kind of avatar or something, and it's like how you see yourself. It makes me think of that Office episode where they are in that like Second Life or whatever, where it's a virtual game,
Oh,
and
you mean
Jim
Ready Player One?
makes himself like he just got like he's always carrying a guitar on his back, and like Pam like makes
Mhm.
fun of. It's just like it's almost like, who do you wish you could be, and if you could, like, how would you shape yourself to project it on like a digital kind of world? So I mean, that was interesting. That was an interesting aspect to this film.
Yeah, I was a little like thrown by that too, because like none of the other characters have like full scale alter egos, and I think that's
Mhm.
maybe a method of her level of control over this and how she manages it. But they don't really like that. That's one of those details that you kind of have to piece together yourself if you want it to be there. I don't know. It was me laying groundwork for myself there at that point, which is weird because a lot of this movie does kind of like lay groundwork for like it just there's just like a lot of exposition, but they can't do everything. You know what I mean? And I don't
Well,
really think that that's like I don't think that that's necessarily a fault, because it's a pretty rich scenario that they've dreamt up here, and they kind of
yeah.
have to lay out a lot of things explicitly. But I know that they don't want to show or tell more than show as much as they do. The thing is, like, the movie starts kind of like in a dream. Like, we don't really know what the fuck is going on for a while in this movie.
Yeah.
And but like once they start explaining it, they really start explaining it. And it's like, like there's all of a sudden there's like this huge hierarchy that explains everything that we've just seen to some extent. And I don't know. I'm torn about how much that helped me and hurt me. Helped me understand, but hurt me experientially. Do you know
Well,
what I mean?
I think so to kind of go back to a comment you made about people not having alter egos. I think ultimately we do see alter egos, and I think that is her kind of control over it is to be implied by how much control she has of Paprika, even though we do see that blend kind of split, and Paprika at one point like becomes her own self, or the woman, we see these flashes where she's losing herself in the identity of Paprika, or wishing that that was her identity. But I mean, in two cases, the big scientist guy or whatever, he ultimately
Paquita.
becomes this kind of like giant robot. And if you think about the way he's described by other people and the way that he's kind of portrayed, like, that could easily be like the way he sees himself. He excels. The only thing he like excels in is like technology. Otherwise, people describe him as very immature, very sloppy,
Mm-hmm.
like, and things like that. So for him to be in this dream world and to essentially just be this like giant robot, like, that kind of makes sense. And then the other guy too, he essentially just becomes a giant shadow monster that is
Mm-hmm.
like casting the darkness over
Well,
everyone. So I mean, like, we kind of
to
do see a split.
whatever extent you could say that, though, like Taquita's maybe the only one that seems firmly possibly that. The thing is, like, by the time he and most of the other characters are in the dream world at all, we are already seeing that they are corrupted, and it's like a confluation of other people's dreams, and they're not necessarily acting out their own dreams, but maybe other people's dreams, maybe the chairman's dreams, like that. So like some of the to whatever extent you can sort of like apply that to those characters, I feel like it's a little confused, because
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much of that is being ascribed onto that character who is in a dream world that they don't control, somebody else is controlling, and
Hmm.
how much is truly like a reflection of whatever their inner personality is. And we don't have enough characters to really bore that out, I
Yeah,
don't think.
It
it's
does feel
So,
true.
like the chairman is like in control. I mean, you find out he's like the ultimate big bad at the
mhm,
end, and it does seem like he's the one either in control or the one blending dreams and like implanting dreams in other people's minds. So it is difficult to suss out why almost anything is really happening
yeah.
because it's all just dreamlike. It just feels like shit is being thrown at the wall, and it works visually. I mean, it's extremely compelling visually, but I don't know
Mhm,
that I was able to pull any like real great meaning out of it at the end of the day.
mhm,
And it's one of those movies like when it starts off, it's you really have to like hold on and you're like, oh man, they're throwing a
Yeah.
lot of information at you. There's an insane amount happening visually on the screen, and it's really exciting at first because like, holy shit, this is a train and it's going to a destination, and I can't wait to see what that destination is. And I feel like it just kind of never reaches a destination for me that felt like really satisfactory in any way,
Yeah.
which was kind of a bummer.
Well, on the flip side, I think it does reach a destination, because ultimately, like, even you when you describe like what does this all culminate to, and it culminates to this woman having this realization about this man, and as a result, in the dream world, this like child is born that overcomes the darkness, and like that's a big show off, or like showdown, where the
Yeah.
one good creature devours the other creature and everything is restored. So like, you know where the end is. The problem is, though, is the dynamics of this movie. It's just like a big wall of sound always. It's not,
Yeah.
there's not dips, or it's like you start off and like this fucking parade starts going, and like you do, I guess, kind of have some dips where they're like explaining things, but like from a visual standpoint, like Dreamworld, it's just like always fucking going at you. So
Very
this thing that
chaotic.
should feel like a bigger, you're ramping up to it, it just feels like another bombastic scene, cacophony of fucking crazy shit. And so
Yeah.
it's the end, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's the end. But because there's not any like particular dynamics to leading up to that, you're just like, you're kind of just relieved that the sound has stopped. You're kind of just like relieved, like, oh, okay, oh,
Well,
I can fucking breathe now.
I would argue that this movie does lead somewhere. It leads at least to a climax, because the climax of this movie, and the part where I was like, "Oh, that's badass," is when the dream world and the real world start combining, and you start seeing like your dream characters, Paprika and the doctor, whatever her name is, in the same world, and having like different modes of thought, like thinking differently. Like, I think that was kind of interesting and fun. And then like just things collapsing, the doll person like breaking buildings, and all, things growing and like becoming more and more insane in the real world, and showing real world impacts of that. I thought that was really cool. Now, that said, once you sort of get to the destination of that climax, I'm a little confused. It's like I don't entirely understand what defeated the bad guy. Like, is it that the dreams of having a child between these two in love characters was stronger than this power hungry, but why? Like, I don't like, there's I'm sure there's a way of looking at it that makes sense. I'm sure there's a few, but I have that really worked for me. It would take another watch probably, and probably some more like a lot more conversation to really start like hearing other people's theories to really start like laying groundwork that I think would make sense for me. But just from that one watch, I was mostly just kind of confused by the way it ended. I understood. I'll tell you what I did understand was the story arc for the detective. His arc, I think, was great. I thought that whole like subplot that ultimately weaves itself into the regular plot, for the most part, when it's not being overwhelmed by the central plot, is pretty easy to understand and pretty cool. And like it helps me. It helps gives me like the understanding of the world and how it works, like without being overly expository all of the time, which sometimes happens outside of his realm as well. So I don't know. I like that, but like, yeah, the central story and like the understanding of what dreams actually are at the end of the day are still very confused to me. So that's where it falls apart for me. And that said, like, I don't mind that things are very chaotic the whole time. Like, a lot of movies I like are like that. So especially because the animation in this is so fucking beautiful that like if I watch this with the sound off, I would still enjoy it. I would say probably three-quarters of the way that I already enjoy it. You know what I mean? And it doesn't need to like, it goes through its little peaks and valleys, but it's mostly like crescendo. And I'm okay with that. I think that works for a movie like this, where like the ultimate end of that crescendo is the real world, the stayed real world, and the dream world colliding in a violent situation.
Yeah. I will tell you, from a visual standpoint, what I really liked, and like as opposed to kind of like what I didn't like, is I wasn't crazy about the parade where it was too much, because I wanted to live in the fantastic nature of these individual things. So what I
Mhm.
really did like was when some of the darkest moments is where the guy becomes the tree. He stands up. That was a cool moment where he's in the wheelchair and then he comes up, but it's vines. And then when he's the whale, that was fucking cool. I love the whale coming up to like eat her or whatever. It's just really fucked up looking too. Um so I liked those moments where there was almost one kind of central thing that I could focus on and,
Yeah, that makes sense.
really appreciate it. I wasn't crazy about the parade. But kind of going back to what I kind of took. So I was thinking about it because you were talking about the detective, and I was like, yeah, that guy's things make sense, but I was like, what was it really necessary to this movie? But then I ultimately I think I landed on it was, and in some ways these things kind of work as a mislead or to kind of help, I guess, what is the main story of the doctor, which is kind of clever because when we start off, it seems like her and Paprika are the ones who are trying to fix the situations. They're the therapists, they're the ones who are
Mhm.
supposed to be helping it. And so it makes this kind of natural sense to where, oh my God, where this crime is happening in the dream world, well, Paprika is going to be the detective or the superhero that's going to help defeat this idea. And it's kind of this mislead to say, like, the fact that like we spend time with this detective and his dreams and stuff like that, and then we even get some other characters of like the little side guy, the Osani or whatever, that his the minion guy
Yeah,
who gets
Yeah.
the
really
lab
rapey or
assistant.
whatever, to
Oh
kind of,
no! Oh yeah, that guy.
The butterfly
yeah,
Oh,
man.
sorry.
Butterfly
Yeah.
Man. So
Mm-hmm.
to kind of almost like make this main character shine to show it's actually like her arc, because what we see is her projection of Paprika and the way that she feels about herself and kind of insecure in her own skin in the real world in a sense, and that people desire her or pursue her, whether in the dream world as Paprika or in the real world as the doctor. But ultimately, it's kind of like her coming to the realization of her love for this guy who is
Mm-hmm.
not those people, who is not the typical good looking, successful guy, or the detective or whatever, the kind of typical companions that I think you would typically see in a type of movie like this. And then her like falling for this guy who everyone just complains about being very immature or so out of touch and things like that. So I think it did help to kind of like make her ultimate story shine and be kind of like the central focus. That's kind
I
of how
think.
I'm taking it right now, I guess.
Yeah, I think. I'm sorry, Bob. Were you gonna say something?
Uh, yeah, I don't know if this really correlates necessarily what Justin was saying, but like there is a sequence where she turns into basically Tinkerbell. So I don't know if there was like a Peter Pan aspect
Tinkerbell.
they were trying to
Right.
riff on there, where like the bigger scientist guy is like sort of childlike. Other than that he's like brilliant, but like maybe there's an aspect of
Good
them not wanting
call.
to like grow up or something, you know?
See, that's what I was gonna say too. Is like, well, not that exactly, but I think that like her whole arc. The more we talk about it, the more it kind of like makes sense for me. She is a very in life, very controlled, very she's a pillar in her job, and she's respected and all those things. It seems like she's got her shit together in a way that Tokita definitely doesn't. So when we find out that that they have, like, they're in love with each other or whatever, and when we see her and Paprika like disagreeing on what to do in the dream world colliding with real world, and they have to like rejoin themselves, I think that's like, I think if there's a message to be had there, I think it's like finding balance between uh being a responsible person and having whimsy in your life. So like, her being in love with this very whimsical, like almost blinders on childish type guy, while being kind of the opposite. It's like an opposites attract sort of thing. And we see that same relationship with her and Paprika. And when they come together, that's when they create this like baby thing. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know. I think that there may be something there going on. Now, what I would complain about maybe is that I don't think that there's a whole lot telegraphed about Tokita and her having any sort of like romantic anything going on until they just explicitly basically tell you that. Like,
Yeah,
you
I
know
mean,
what I
they
mean?
do have that one scene where he's like, he's trying to fix or create a new device, and she kind
Mhm.
of like freaks out on him, which is the
Yeah.
only time where she kind of shows that type of emotion. And so it
Mhm.
could be implied, like, why do you care so much about this guy? Like, no, she doesn't freak out on anybody else. You know, she doesn't show any type of involvement in anybody else. And they do have a couple scenes together beforehand, which nothing I wouldn't have guessed anything was going on. But I mean, yeah, I mean it kind of makes sense in hindsight, but yeah, at the time I wasn't even clocking that as anything as
No.
part of the story or anything like
It
that.
definitely seemed like inserted at the last minute to me. Like they did have scenes together, and like you're right, they did have that scene, but all of that seemed like the way that it's portrayed, the way that it's explicitly told to us, is that she and the other characters are upset with him because he is got his blinders on. He's not thinking about the ramifications of what he's doing. He's focused on all the wrong shit that's causing all of this to happen in the
Yeah.
first place. His blindness to those things is causing all this. So she has a very legitimate non-romantic reason to be pissed off at this guy, and so does pretty much everybody, and he's just like very unable to cope with that or deal with that, so he just says like, I'm not interested in that, and he just keeps doing shit that he shouldn't be doing that's not
Yeah.
helping anything. So like, I don't know, like to me it seems like somebody who's like very talented, and like the rest of the movie, every other part of the movie is jokes at his expense, like when they're
Yeah.
talking about him or around him, or talking about how he is a problem in some way. So like I just don't, it just seemed very out of nowhere that she suddenly is like in love with this guy, to the point where she is willing to risk her life and the future of the world, I guess, on saving him, even as he is largely responsible for some of the shit that caused it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That
There,
seemed very very left field to me.
I agree with that, Randy. There is definitely a through line here where like as we're talking about, it's becoming a little more clear. Like the dream child, is sort of like the key to figuring out the point of this whole thing. Like the baby being born in the dream at the end is what basically saves the world. The movie that Paprika recommends the cop go see is named Dreaming Kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's the whole Tinkerbell thing that we already mentioned. And there's also like there's a ton of butterflies in this, and I know butterflies are some sort of like they're like a symbol of like rebirth or like life after death. There's like this childlike
Metamorphosis. Yeah.
newborn kind of like theme throughout this movie. I don't know exactly what the fuck that means with the dreams and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
think
I
that's
think it's
kind
like,
of the key.
yeah, I think Randy got it to it well too, of
Yeah.
the combination of, when it's the key of the success is when her and Paprika, they're separated, they come together,
Mm.
and it's kind of like that acceptance of like the balance again of like who you are and like who you want to be, or your dreams or aspirations or your kind of like fantasy dream world that kind of creates this longing or resentment or this thing that's like where the real world might be keeping you from these things. Like, if she was in love with this guy, but like the way that she is, she's controlled, she's respected, whatever, that's keeping her from that. But in the dream world, she's free and she's, sexy or flirtatious or whatever. And just kind of like reconciling those things within yourself is like the key to becoming. And even
I
like
mean,
the
it's
idea of
basically,
the child is kind of like, I don't know, like the birth of like if she's with this guy, there's like a child that's born or whatever, if she's able to accept that of who she is and what she wants. And then like that's the key to it. And it's the same, and it's important to have the cop because it's kind of the same thing. Is he keeps going through these same dreams. And when he gets out of it, they're able to logically look at it like, okay, I know what this means.
Mhm.
And like, oh, I know what this means. Like, look at this picture. Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. But it's not until he like plays that and is able to like accept it, what it is, that he's also able to move on too. So where
Right.
this movie starts off with this idea of this this thing is designed to help you get through therapy, to kind of like get you through the situation. I think that's kind of the key, is it's like a therapy session essentially.
Kind of, yeah. I think
Mm.
there's two modes happening here, and where they exactly intersect, I'm not entirely sure. There's the mode of like finding balance in between fantasy and reality, finding like it's important to dream about things and have fantasies and dream big and all that shit, while also having a one foot on the ground, so to speak. So like there's that, but then there's also like this thing where I don't know, it's not just about the fantasy, it's about, I don't know, I'm like word souping here, but the,
Mike,
it
Randy,
seems
Mike,
like, huh?
get on the
Keep
mic.
the mic.
Oh
There you
shit.
go.
It seems like there's that, and then also there's the therapy angle where you see like the detective, like his dreams are marred with trauma that he's not able to understand. He has to put it into a different context. He has to remove it from the context of a dream, look at it objectively, re-enter it a few more times, and then like through virtue of needing to help his friends, his colleagues, whatever you want to call them, he finds a way to overcome his trauma and realizes, oh, this is because I feel guilt about my dead friend, not finishing this film we made together, all those things. But he would be happy with me, becoming a cop too. Like I became a cop because I wanted to, finish the story that we never finished and all that sort of thing. I think that's all really cool. I don't know exactly how that overlays on top of the balance of whimsy and fantasy and reality. I guess it's just play this whole movie, I guess, is just sort of like talking about teetering on that line, and
Yeah.
how I don't know. I think that I definitely feel like more. I feel like I have a better understanding of what it's about now than I did when I started this podcast. Certainly, just talking
Yeah.
about
I
it a little bit.
told you I'd explain it to you, Randy.
Oh, senpai. Oh.
But
You're gonna tell me that I'm wrong?
I also think there's this element to it too. It kind of reminds me of kind of like the Triforce idea of,
Oh,
Nerd.
I know. But the
what's
idea
that?
of there's this thing, and it kind of is, if you're able to get your hands on it, the world kind of becomes what you have internally. So, when the doctor's in it, she's completely focused on using it as this tool for therapy to help people, but she also uses it to kind of project herself. Like we said, she in this world,
Mhm.
she has this alter ego that's completely different from her. She's free, she's very flirtatious, and all of those things. But when this other guy gets it, even from his very opening scene, he's talking about being like this gatekeeper, the controller or whatever. And then by the end, I mean, his whole thing is like, I'm the keeper of dreams or the ruler of dreams or whatever. And it's kind of like the
Mhm.
aspect of power. Like, and even with the other guy, his little minion guy, his guy kind of uses it, but ultimately just to get to the woman. And the
Mhm.
guy tears him apart for that. Like, oh, you're gonna throw away this power just for the sake of a woman. So for him, it really is like, it's like fucking Ganondorf grabbing the Triforce, and then the world becomes like all about him controlling it through power. Whereas when other people were a part of it, they were using it for different means that weren't like that negatively focused. Or so that's like kind of where I
Yeah.
see like the world kind of falling into this peril, is because the one who's in control of it, that's what he desires. That's what his projection that he's putting onto
Well,
it or whatever.
that plus the technology and the way the unintended consequences of having dream world and reality start to
Mix,
like
yeah.
override each other, even before that becomes like a true thing that happens. They're saying like, oh, I'm getting to the point where I don't need the machine to like enter other people's dreams, and it's not like they
Yeah.
kind of like unlocked like this mass dream that can be projected to other people. It causes several people to accidentally kill themselves and shit, like
Mm-hmm.
as they have delusions, like our the short doctor, whatever his name was. And like I don't know, like that's all very interesting. It's just I don't know. I think that what he ultimately wants, the bad guy, our bad guy, our Ganondorf, is just it's the same old like authoritarian playbook of like, well, if you want stability, the only way to do that is by building the walls yourself and maintaining those walls at all costs with an iron fist. And so he's taking something like whimsical and formless and fitting it to his own form by force. So it's almost like antithetical to what he's trying to protect, that he's like building this world that cannot be altered outside of his parameters, he hopes. But it's the whole appeal that he's supposedly protecting is the ability not to have that happen, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's like a lot to be said about like I don't know, people using imagination for the wrong things, people using like, it's like, I work in advertising, like using creative thought to do something evil is something that is often built into advertising, propaganda, all those sorts of things, like in order
Randy
to
gets paid to do it.
I mean, I like to think that I work with the people that aren't quite so callous, but
That's what
that's
they all
that's a
think
question.
in the beginning.
That's a question for the priest. Maybe not.
Damn.
No, I don't know. It's I don't know. I find that interesting the more I think about it as a villain. Like that was kind of my biggest question, is trying to understand what the positive and negatives, what the good and bad was at the end of the story. And I think that we kind of found it, if I like at least one that I find compelling. So I don't know.
We
I feel better about this
solved the
movie
puzzle.
now. But I
We
think
did.
like
You're
look-
welcome.
looking at the broads like animation and all that stuff though, it's worth watching just for that. I think
There's
I'm
some
so glad
really
that
cool
this was the
sequences.
poll that this
Yeah.
got onto. It makes perfect sense having seen it now. There's just some really fucking impressive shit when they do that. When the detectives runs down the hallway and it starts like bunching up like a rug, the whole hallway starts that is so fucking cool to me. And that's not even like a 2D cell animation thing, that's a 3D thing, but the way they do it is so fucking good. It's like taking the tried and true, like I forget what you call that, but the telescopic lens shot where the foreground and background start to like reverse each other, but it's doing
One's
it like
moving in, one's
on
moving out.
a whole other like level. It's really great.
Hmm.
Shit like that I really love. And I kind of agree, Justin, that like the parade itself, like I think that the parade serves a very important function of being like emblematic of the chaos. And it's always kind of in one location. It starts branching out as the movie goes on, and that's kind of the problem. But like it being like this like chaotic thing that just sort of is in your dreams or is in dreams, I think I know it's a lot to take in, and they show it a lot because it has to like it's basically a dark cloud moving about the story. You know what I mean? But it's
I kinda
more
liked it.
circusy than that.
Oh, really?
I mean, I liked it too. Like
Yeah.
visually, it's fucking great. But I didn't have like, but like it is chaotic, and I can understand feeling overwhelmed
Yeah.
by that and a lot of the other things in this movie.
I thought it looked great, and there's also a very specific like carny sound that they play while it's
Song.
moving about. Yeah, and that track is like haunting and kind of whimsical at the same time. And I thought it just like fit the vibe of the movie like perfectly. I really liked it. I thought it worked.
Specifically with that and like the parade and the music linked together, but then also other things too. I just kept constantly thinking, how did they come up with this? I really just kept thinking, whose brain did this come out of? Because this is nuts.
They
I
do a
would say the
lot
same
of
shit about
drugs.
fucking Mario Brothers, though. It's just
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes things just come to you and you make them happen. Yeah,
I guess so.
sometimes it's drugs. That's the famous theory.
Maybe
Mario,
it's
certainly.
drugs.
It's always
Maybe
drugs.
it's
Maybe.
drugs. That's the only way things are created is with drugs.
Yeah,
Message
How this
from Straight
podcast
Chilling.
gets it.
I'm on shrooms right now.
I'm
I
really
can't
tripping
cast
hard. Right
unless
now.
I'm fucking blasted.
The colors, Duke! The colors!
Blasted in the ass.
Bob.
I don't know. I think
Every time we can't have
I also
one
like-
respectable cast.
I won't allow
but just
it. It's not in
just
the
to
file.
speak to what you were saying, Justin, I do like. I think I prefer, given the choice, like moments where something starts to become off.
Mhm.
To like for example, okay, or you this is like also very chaotic scene where you have Paprika like sort of flying around trying to find this lab assistant that's worked for to whatever Tokita,
Nikita.
and who they suspect as being like behind all of this shit.
Mhm.
And she finds like this husk of a guy, like
Mhm.
that's a very like, it's not as chaotic, I don't think, as the parade, because like there's not a million things to focus on, but it's kind of chaotic in its own way because it's like formless. Again, you kind of like once you I don't know, the truth is sort of like hidden in metaphor a little bit.
Mhm.
Like I guess the supposition about dreams in this movie anyway is the same thing. So I don't know, like I'm a little torn about it because at the same like on one hand it's like it can be overwhelming to see a lot of chaotic shit, but on the other hand like that's perfectly in line with what they're depicting, I think.
Yeah. I really think my favorite segment, there's like a lot of great stuff going on here, but I really think my favorite segment is the reveal and the chase. With the, with the guy, he gets up, he's the fucking tree, and then he changes forms and he's kind of like taunting her, like, we're in a dream world, like you just running is gonna do nothing for you. She because in that way she transforms a lot too. She becomes a mermaid to try to like we see her trying to adjust with her powers in the dream world, and you get to kind of see like how powerful she is. I mean, she's able to shift and maneuver as best she can. But like I love the mermaid, and then the whale comes up and it's got his fucked up face, and the scene where she's Tinkerbell and she goes in, it looks almost like this beehive, and then she like comes out and it's this body. That just all that shit, that whole sequence from beginning to end was probably my favorite, and it had the most like darkest stuff in it too, I think, the most unsettling. But to me it was the good balance between, I know what's going on but we can still be wild, but there's something to focus on, because like I see Paprika change and I want to see what this guy is changing to, and there's a chase going on, and that was the perfect blend for me, that whole sequence.
I hear you. That was cool. Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of like a Dexter's Lab where they're turning each other into different animals and chasing each other around for the remote. Like that's the kind of energy it has, where it's like just they become anything, but it's still a chase no matter what they're doing.
Yeah.
That is kind of cool. I don't know. I would say that some of the like as much as I love like the detective subplot, like things like Tokita, I understand. I think that he's just meant to be basically like, I don't know, like pathologically incapable of being an adult about anything. I understand that, but I don't know, like, what's his relationship with his lab assistant like? Like, what are they like? I don't know. I'm unclear what his motivations are from moment to moment.
Yeah.
Which is not true for Paprika or her alter ego or whatever, or the bad guy even. And then similarly, like the guy who sells his soul or whatever gives up his body to become powerful in the dream world so he can get with the female doctor. Like, I don't even know what the fuck that dude's deal is. Is he just like obsessed with her this whole time? I guess.
Butterfly Man. He's just an evil prick that shows up, and we're like, oh, okay.
I don't know why that character needs to be there. Really,
that's a fair question. It could just be the other guy.
Well, there was one thing that was implied.
It doesn't need to be a love issue at all. Like,
well, yeah. Well, there was one thing that was implied that I didn't fully understand the mechanics of, and it seemed like the bald guy who couldn't walk somehow, or like for some reason needed an able-bodied person to do this. And I'm wondering if it's because he's using them as some kind of buffer, because when they find the guy that they think is doing it, the lab assistant, when they find him, they're like, he's just a husk and he knew the risk if you wear this too long or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then when we have the other guy, the rapey guy, Butterfly Man, the guy specific is like, no, you can't do that. And like, I need your body, or so like these lines are dropped, but I don't understand the mechanics or the need for it. I don't understand what's happening there.
Yeah. That's where like some of that exposition falls apart, because it's like, you've got this, like exactly everything you just said, plus the thought that like this guy, like the idea that he needs an able-bodied person, is his goal to take over that guy's body in the real world, and then when the real world and dream world collapse, it doesn't matter anymore because he's able to walk as this
Maybe.
like ghoul guy, giant fucking ghoul man. Or is like, and what's in it for that other guy? Like it
Yeah.
just I don't know. And like you said, like the mechanics of the first kid, the lab assistant, being a husk, like it's like he was mined and drained by our actual villain. So
Mhm.
maybe because he needed the rapey guy, like the villain needed the rapey guy for a body, he didn't drain him completely. He instead propped him. I don't fucking know. That's the thing, is like,
Yeah, I don't know
I don't know.
either.
And like those don't seem like necessarily thematic beats that to be interpreted. They seem like mechanical problems that we're just kind of left wondering about.
Mhm.
I don't know that there's a meaning to them. I think there's just an absence of mechanical understanding,
I think they,
exposition on
yeah, I
that.
think they do enough to like drop lines that like that's why it's necessary, but we don't know why.
Yeah, I don't.
For
Yeah,
some
and I don't.
reason it
I feel like
is.
they could drop that whole character and have, Mount Baldy or whatever, like slice open her paprika, whatever, and then have the detective come in and save the day after,
Yeah.
realizing his power or whatever, becoming he found his dream power, man. And
He
then he
did.
like fucking
He did.
saves Paprika, and then
Damn.
they become separate people in the real world, and then recoalesce, and that's what saves everything at the end of the day, philosophically, and like
And then
from this
Freddy
guy who
Krueger
found.
comes in and calls everyone a bitch.
Yeah, that dream child drops a dream child on your ass.
Warrior.
You guys want to go and rate this thing? I think we touched on just about all of it
Yeah.
that
Sure.
that we can, anyways.
Yeah.
Let's go and do it out of 5. Randeezy, kick us off. This was your
What?
pick. Yeah, I know,
You never
right?
let me go first,
Ooh,
and this is like a
weird.
hard one. Um,
It's so hard.
yeah, I think that I definitely have a better understanding after just like getting to talk about it for the first time out loud. Like talking about it helps, certainly. I thought it would take a little bit more than even this podcast to get there, but I think we've talked through a pretty satisfactory explanation that I just wasn't getting on the first viewing.
We're pretty smart.
Um,
Eh,
but yeah, I think that this was ultimately I enjoyed this movie. I think that I enjoyed the animation a lot. Like a lot. Like, and I'm glad that it won this poll because it was so much of a visual feast. It provided things that most like live action movies could never even remotely accomplish without a fucking 3 Marvels movies worth of fucking budget. Um, yeah, and that would basically be animation anyway. It just wouldn't be fucking 2D awesome animation. So yeah, I liked that about it a lot. I was really engrossed in it because of that. I had a hard time following it, but now that we've sort of like I think found some core philosophies here, I think that it holds together a lot better than it did for me immediately after reviewing. So it's kind of puts me in a position where I'm trying to figure out what a appropriate score is. I think I'm going to give it a 3. I don't think I like this as much as Perfect Blue because like the ultimate impact of it is not. It's undercut by some of maybe its own ambition. I don't know. Like I'm not. I was not able to get fully immersed because I was left with so many lingering questions. So those climaxes, those moments, they really didn't land the way that I think that they were intended to for that reason. So that's kind of the big drawback here. And I think there's some things that could maybe be removed from this movie, or maybe I need to like dig deeper and figure out more about like the rapey side doctor and like where this Dr. Tokita romance came from. Like those are things that I'm like maybe there's a philosophical meaning behind it. Certainly the latter one has a little bit, but I don't know that there's it's even readily apparent enough for me to get like outside of like talking it through. So I don't know. I think a 3 is fair. I'm still left a little bit middling on this because of those issues, but ultimately I did enjoy watching it and I've enjoyed talking about it. So 3 seems right.
Cool.
all right. 3 from Randeezy. Juice, what
Bob.
about you?
Okay. I was gonna let you go, but Yeah, so yeah, the thing about this movie is it was tough for me to get through, but in the way that I described it, I think that's like the appropriate way that I feel about it, where I feel like this is a delicious dish. It's interesting flavors, but it's also very, very rich and dense, and it's hard for me to like work through it. And it's something that you almost kind of have to like prepare for. So some things that we kind of didn't really touch on. I find the kind of floatiness, the music that pops in when Paprika kind of comes in, and it's this, very kind of cutesy poppy J-pop sweetness to it. Or I find that pleasant in like the small doses. So when it like triggers and when she's flying through there, I'm like, yeah, okay, let's fly around. There's a pleasantness to it, but it can become oversaturated. And it's weird because I'm not a big anime person, but when I get it in these small doses, I find it very enjoyable for what it is. I find it very particular. Like Japan has tapped into this, it's like its own thing going on. And I find it very curious, but also at the same time, it's not something I can consume often because it's just a particular flavor for me, and it's positive, but a lot. And I like the creepiness vibes of this. I would say that my main characters that I like Paprika and the doctor and the whole main arc. I like the kind of side story of the detective. Everything else is a little bit less for me. And even the love aspect, I like that that's where she needed to end up for her own psychosis, but the development of that other character and like who he is and what he represents, that wasn't as strong for me, as much as I just enjoyed kind of like the main character's journey. This does get a little rapey. It felt a little reanimator-ish, where it was like kind of unnecessary for that to kind of like take place. And but like yeah, I don't know, it was weird, but
There's like
Japan.
I wanted to bring this up, but I forgot. There's also like the Roots scene where it's a little tentacle
Sure.
porny at
It
one point
does,
in
it
this movie,
does,
and
for
it's kind of
sure,
upsetting.
for sure.
Um,
And that
Yeah.
was kind of more the transformation thing I was thinking too, because that was the rapey guy. So like that's what he kind of transforms into as well. So
that's
yeah,
like I thought that was like Baldy, but they're kind of the same. I don't know.
yeah,
It's
it's
very
hard to
confusing.
yeah. But so yeah, it's a mix for me. I would say I'm mostly more positive on this, and the things that are bringing it down are it's very overwhelming. And some things just like don't make sense to me, and it could on a rewatch, but I'm just not super eager to rewatch it. But overall, I like it, just in small doses. So I think ultimately I'm gonna end on a 3.5 for this one.
Right.
Bob, over to you.
Whoa.
Out of 5, what are you gonna rank Paprika?
Well, I feel like this movie's just kind of like unfocused. It's what it feels like to me. There's just like a whole lot of stuff going on, and some of it feels like fluff. Like I don't know that really like helps pay off in the end. Um, Visually, I think it's super wonderful. I mean, it looks amazing. I don't know like really much about anything anime, but like it was a blast to watch this visually. I think the soundtrack was pretty damn baller as well. Um, the overall point, like I guess I just even after this conversation, where like it becomes a little more clear. I don't know that the juice is ultimately worth the squeeze on this one. It rings a little bit hollow in the end. Um, I don't know the Inception like concepts, and like one of the characters, I forget which one, says something along the lines of like planting dreams in somebody else's mind is a terrorist act, and like that's like a really interesting thing to ponder, and the way it sort of plays out on screen is amazing visually, but it just feels like a little too all over the place at the end to really be a fully satisfying watch for me. I think I'm going to come in a little lower than you guys with a 2.5 on this one. And that's going to put our aggregate at a 3 even.
Ooh, quick math.
I was right.
Randy is correct. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Paprika.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment of the podcast. And the way this works is I'm going to have these gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate positive score is on RottenTomatoes.com for Paprika, starting with the critics and then moving on to the users. We have 92 critical reviews of this film. Bob, I'm going to start with you today. Where do you think that aggregate score lands percentage-wise? 92.
That's kind of a tough one. Do critics like anime? I don't know. It is from Japan, so Americans are probably very enthralled with it.
And it's got Yabos. Oh, by the way, I should have clarified. I don't give half star for animated Yabos. Okay, so
Man of principles.
I know. Nobody's putting themselves out there, you know. So
Corpse
man.
Yabos, fine.
it's just a sweaty dude in a room somewhere drawing some Yabos.
Yeah, it could be a woman drawing. You have no idea.
Could be.
Could be
That doesn't
somebody with their
change.
own Yabos.
Yeah.
These are
Yes, I
my
would
Yabos.
give this a 60%.
60%.
Sure.
All right. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little higher and say maybe I'm a man of the critics this week and say 70. What my score was
70. All right. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Nobody was all that close.
Oh no.
There's a 15% gap between the correct answer and what was given. The correct answer is, of course, 85% certified fresh. Juice is going to take this one.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's a hell yeet, Bob. I wonder how you say hell yeet in Japanese.
They don't say it.
I think
They
it sounds
don't.
like this.
Spicy.
So
that is definitely a Japanese person on that bump
yeah,
for
Oh,
sure.
of course. So we'll move on to our user rating now. The audience score is roughly 25,000 ratings. Large. That's quite a number. Start with Bob on this one. I'm sorry, start with Juice on this one. Where do you think that those 25,000 ratings place this movie?
Oof, that is hard to say. I think this one could dip lower than the critics, but it was pretty high. So 85. So I'll stick with my 70.
70. All right. Bob, how about you?
I don't know what people like anymore.
They changed what it was.
I'm living in a nightmare.
Used to be down with it.
Now I'm just
It
I'm
all
not down
happened
with it
to
anymore.
you.
It used to be the sickness, and now I don't know what it is.
What do I be down with?
Well, it's probably, I don't know, that's a lot of people, man. This is a weird movie.
Yeah.
Definitely lower than 85, I gotta think. Is it lower than 70? Let's be cynical and say yes.
Okay, that sounds lovely.
I'll go with a 65.
65. All right. So almost no changes on your choices here.
Yeah.
Again, nobody is particularly close. Actually, further. 17%
90%.
gap here. And
I thought you
Bob,
were saying 17%.
17% gap.
Gap,
Again,
yeah.
or like,
Yeah.
rather than 15 last time. Bob, you are not going to take this one either. It's 87%. 87. Much.
I don't appreciate you playing with my feelings like that. That's
Look, that's what gets the views, buddy. This is
oh
you never seen American Idol? They do that shit all the time.
Bob. You
are
You're
sucking shit.
not going
A
to Hollywood.
loser.
Fuck you. Get out of here.
You are
Your
giving a
parents are
hell you
disappointed.
sweet.
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
You cooter
All right,
queen.
lint lickers.
Bob, you got to go as a cooter queen for Halloween.
I don't
should
know
be-
what that looks like.
I think you could figure it out. There's a lot of knowledge.
I think
there's a lot of
so.
samples to pull from just from this
Mhm.
show. All right. Now, as we always do, we're gonna read a couple of negative reviews and see if they make us laugh or not, basically. Here we go. Is it sci-fi, fantasy, idiocy? Mostly it's a droning mess. Pretty to look at, but confounding to the point where you just don't care anymore. I love it
pretty
when
funny.
a movie I love it when movies like, or when people are criticizing the shit out of something, but then they have to give it to them on one hand. Like,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
I
that
guess
looks
it's great to
fantastic.
look at. They did really fucking good on this. But
But also, too, it's
sucks,
too
though.
confounding for me to think about. So I just gave
Yeah,
up and
I don't
gave it
care.
a negative score.
Yeah,
It's
an
their
okay.
fault.
All you need to do is listen to Straight Chillin', and we'll explain it to you.
And give us a 5-star rating on iTunes so that
Yeah,
we
for
can start
making you
writing
look
our
like
own
a
fucking
fool.
bullshit.
Here's one more negative review. With a conventional invade dreams / bend reality plot, it's a bit of a bore. I don't understand what's conventional
That has
about
to be
this.
a
Like,
joke.
that's fucking ridiculous to me. Like, there's a
Yeah,
handful of
this
movies
is
that
like-
do that at most, and
That's
they're
a
all
troll.
pretty
never
different from
seen
each
a
other.
movie quite like this.
That is a troll. Nothing conventional about this fucking movie.
Conventional.
Yeah.
Paint by numbers, really.
I
Really,
see it
this
every
is
day.
this is the exact same as Nightmare on Elm Street. Exact same movie. You just go
Going
watch
into
that.
Dreams, you know,
I mean, shit.
pretty
Man,
standard shit.
The knife glove hands and the fucking burnt dude with his
Simpsons.
They
hat.
really just went down the
First.
list and checked it off. Guy who says bitch, burn victim, long arms.
Who says bitch?
If they had some dude like in the corner just going
That would be
bitch, I would have lost my shit.
Dude, if they snuck in like in some of the overly detailed like frames of this, snuck in like Freddy Krueger, I would die happy.
That'd
He
be
snuck
awesome.
in a perfect blue poster, so why not?
Oh, nice.
There's some
I would
There's some Easter
die.
eggs. I would die a happy man
Damn.
in my
But-
dreams.
But if it's not in this movie, I'll die unhappy.
That's true. That is true.
Randy, do
All
you
right,
have any
that's our Rotten
regrets?
Tomatoes.
Lived a
Fuck
long,
you,
fruitful life.
Paprika.
My on my headstone it'll say should have put Kruger in it.
Where's the Krug?
I need the Krug.
Krug.
That's all I need.
Isn't that a coffee maker?
The Krug maker. Man, holy shit.
The
When if they
Krug.
ever finally make another like Nightmare on Elm Street, when they finally make one, if they make a dumb
Oh,
joke
fuck.
about a killer Keurig, that says Kruger on it, I'm
Krug.
going to laugh.
Oh my
I'm
god.
going to laugh.
I
And I'll tell
want-
you what, I will die happy.
Damn.
I want a coffee machine in the house that says "It's done, bitch!" Like when it's ready to.
Uh,
Oh, coffee's up.
Damn, that'd be awesome.
That would be
The future is bright.
trademark, motherfucker.
Yep, trademark. We got a lot of
Trademark
trademarks
of
out
this
there.
This very well
Trademark
trademarked
franchise.
character and
Wes
phrase.
Craven said we could have it, so it's fine.
Oh, Wes, he told me in a dream, so you know it's good. It holds up. All right, that's it for Rotten Tomatoes. Bob, what do we got coming next?
There's like no trivia on this movie, honestly.
Really?
There's
That's
basically
Time for
nothing.
trivia. All right.
Yeah, it's totally not time for trivia, but let's talk Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what's a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Oh, Cooter's a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, I think there's a clear Cooter. What do you think?
I think so.
I think there's like
that
a
movie.
a
Go ahead.
double tap for this one.
Yeah.
I think
the,
so.
the chairman and his butterfly man henchman dude.
Yeah, I was gonna go
Butterfly
butterfly Mang for sure
kisses.
because I think this is not one we typically start with, but I think the overall patheticness is going to hit higher on this guy.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
tell you
pretty
what,
high.
the movie does our work for us because they literally combine those characters into one guy.
It's true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It's true.
I say we lock up the little root monster with butterflies around it because
But yeah, him
pathetic
being
high.
like the henchman, you know, kind of,
Yeah.
and being
Hypotheticness.
manipulated by this guy and being, you know, what I just
Rapey?
think I think he's got, well, to get to stick on the patheticness point, I
Right.
think that might take him a little higher on the point scale than the
Mhm.
chairman. But it's definitely, you know, sexual deviance. Checkaroni.
Yeah.
He sticks his
Check.
hand literally into her gooch.
Yeah, in through the skin.
And all the way up her body, and
Yeah.
I don't like
it's
it.
rough. It's
That's
rough.
I
weird.
do
That's
not like it.
Yeah. And while
Um,
she's like pinned down like a butterfly, that was fucked up.
That was really fucked up. Yeah.
And then like unzips her skin, revealing
And then
Yeah.
we've
a
got
naked woman
look-
inside.
look in attire. He's got an old bald piece of shit
Yeah.
wrapped around his whole life. So not a good
You
look.
don't?
Yeah.
I don't. I
And
don't know. I don't
penis
have
fingers.
I don't have a Voldemort in my soul personally.
You should get one.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
sure, yeah.
that tree wraparound thing was definitely got way
Dude,
too
that was too
tentacly.
fucking
Wah.
much. Yeah, I did not
Yeah.
like that at all.
Not good.
Um,
Not good there, Japan. Not good there, Japan.
Just really letting your freak
Hey.
flag fly in all the
Hey, if
wrong
you don't
time.
want to fuck a squid, that's your business, okay?
I think it's so
That's
funny because they go
fine.
it's like they go to extra pains to show Paprika's character as like not overly sexualized. Like
Yeah.
she's a little flirty when she's like doing a thing, like when she's trying to convince the older doctor that he's in a dream and trying to break him out of
They
it.
show that she's
Shit like that.
highly desirable, though.
I guess, but like they don't. I don't know. Like she's not wearing like nothing. She's like
Yeah.
wearing like. It seems like she's
Regular
like just
clothes.
kind of a person, like kind of like a self-assured pixie dream girl, if anything.
Yeah. Literal pixie
Oh.
at one point.
I know.
Oh, boy.
Oh
Wait.
god.
What's
We
our
know
last
that
point?
when
We
you
got
bring it
looking
up like
at
that.
what are we? What are we missing?
So sexual deviance, smug arrogance.
Oh well, the old guy covers that. Actually, they both do.
Yeah,
Because like
Yeah.
that both of them fucking that guy's trying to form reality and dream world around his own fucking bullshit, like a
All been
authoritarian
there.
piece of shit. And then meanwhile, the other guy is willing to like basically sell his body, his soul, whatever else to this guy for a chance to dig into this woman's fucking psyche and make her his in some way.
Also, yeah, what was up with that beat where she was like taunting him or breaking him down, where she's like, you sold your body to blah 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 for I was like, what are they talking about?
I'm not entirely sure, but I think that
Okay.
it's what's happening to him and what's happened to that lab assistant seem to be related in some way,
Okay.
but they seem different. That's the part where I get lost in
if
it,
he was
you know?
like,
Nobody really knows.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think that any of us are-
there.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Nah.
but I did like I think I took it as like, at least like in the moment, like I took it as her taunting him as like, I don't know, anything to sort of like, she's
Yeah, throw him
trying to
off,
be strategic about like P-Deuce
Sure,
situation, shall
of
we say.
course. I didn't understand like what it meant. I was like,
Yeah,
"Ooh, that
I don't
sounds
either.
fucked
I don't
up."
understand what
Um,
that's supposed to exactly
yeah.
mean, but
The,
so yeah,
the
I think they
phrase,
hit all levels of
Yeah.
cooterdom. This
the
duo.
P-Deuce situation is such a specific
I know.
thing to say.
I have a P-Deuce situation every
You
morning.
need to be
actually, but
familiar
that's a
with
whole different
every
thing.
single one of our episodes to completely
To get all the
follow
jokes.
with
Go
our
listen to our
conversation.
P2 review, and then that might make some sense to you.
For
I mean, even that
Christmas. Wait
sentence
for
doesn't make sense to
Christmas.
most people who don't know that that's a movie.
Yeah.
Yes, that is
So,
true.
So yeah, and then
Yeah.
manipulation
Obviously, manipulation check.
on both
sure.
counts. Yeah. So
Planting
yeah, we got 'em.
dreams.
We got a
into
5-star
dreams,
cooter on our
We got a
hands.
5-star tag team cooter team here.
That's a
Good
rainy day
God.
Whoa.
Lock his ass up.
Cooter
Lock
tag
him
don't
up.
want
team.
him.
in this house.
All
All right.
We
Good
got 'em.
job there. Good job, boys.
What's
Woo,
up,
all right.
Bob?
You know what's up? It's time to talk about what we've been watching this week.
All right.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, it sounded like you had a pretty short list. Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
Not really. I honestly, like, I've had such a chaotic work week and other things interceding, so watching stuff really hasn't happened for the most part. The only thing I have watched has been The Mist in black and white, and then I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom in a few gaps here and there where I can, which is, as always, great. So nothing much to add to this week.
All right, Juice. What about you?
Well, so
Oh wait.
Oh,
Well, you know what? No, that's part of the festival. Never mind. We're going to talk about that another time.
oh yeah, okay. Got
Go on.
another festival on our hands there, boys.
Oh boy.
Kind of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, as I mentioned before, this weekend I got to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is perfect summer horror movie. It's so fucking sweaty and dank, and
Yeah.
it's good.
Don't touch
Holds up.
that dial. You need to hear this.
Holds up, of course. It's interesting watching it with people who've never seen it before, but also you become really like self-aware. Or I was a little, with other people who aren't horror fans, just kind of like looking along. So I'd be like looking around.
Is
and,
this
like, people
okay?
just
Are they? Yeah. Are we all okay in this building right now?
Yeah. Then also to watch Whispering Corridors, which this is like a kind of it's big, but it's also, I would say, like a hidden gem a little bit in Korean horror. So this is came out in 1998, and this is kind of the thing that kicked off the idea of like summer horror films in Korea, because they just happened to drop it in like the end of May in 1998, and it just so happened to blow up. And because of that, it became this trend of like, oh, well, we'll just release horror movies in the summer. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to cover it. It's good too, because as I was doing research for the film, I found out that, before that, Korea had a lot more stricter regulations on film and stuff like that for a period up until the mid to late 80s. I think around the Olympics in 88, there was a bit of like a military dictatorship going on in South Korea. And so the 90s, so that broke down, but then like the 90s was really about a time of like tearing down a lot of those regulations and censorship and stuff like that. And so in a way, like Whispering Corridors really kind of kicked off the big wave of films that we were able to get in like the early 2000s stuff, a lot of stuff that we praise now, Old Boy and The Host and stuff like that. So it's really interesting, like from a historical standpoint, and it's not super accessible. I will say though, one way that I found that was a good way to stream it if you want is Hoopla, which is I guess the thing where you can use your library card. Luckily I had my library card here in Korea. I was like, oh shit. And I was able to use it even in Korea. Like a lot of streaming services have restrictions like Netflix and stuff about where you're from and like where you're at, IP and stuff. But it worked. And so if you want to watch it and you have a library card, it's available on Hoopla. So you can check it out there. Yeah, it's like a ghosty kind of flick, and it's got some good stuff to it. Also too, man, watched Homeward Bound.
Oh, really?
Yes, from the 90s. So
I watched that movie so many fucking times.
Me too. That was a big time road trip movie. So when I was a kid, my grandparents had one of those old style vans, not minivans, like fucking bulky ass vans that had like a TV in it. We could hook the SNES up to it and a VHS, dude. Yeah. So Homeward Bound was like one of those movies where we go on road trips. You're watching fucking Homeward Bound, and I will say it's on Disney Plus. Dude, I think it held up pretty damn good for a movie that came out when you're a kid and you have all this like nostalgia value to it. I thought it actually held up pretty good. It had some feels to it, especially if you're like a pet lover, you got a dog or something. Like I thought that it actually held up pretty well. And bonus, sneaky Halloween film. Yeah.
Really?
I don't know if you remember the scene. There's this scene where they think that they found the pets and they're going around to all the kids and they're like getting the kids and they're like, Jamie, we found him. And the kid, he's preparing for a Halloween play and he drops the pumpkin and it like splats and they're like, sorry, we'll buy a new pumpkin. And they're just so excited to
Oh,
get the pets or
yeah.
whatever.
Damn.
Yeah, dude, sneaky Halloween. And like there's so there's some autumn leaves and stuff going on. Oh, so that was just a cool way too. I know we're in spooky season, but to like get me super excited because also I really have just been getting that itch. I know it's the end of July now, but I also went back and listened to some classic straight chillin' Halloween episodes. So I listened to Beetlemang, which is the one that always kind of kicks it off for me.
Nice.
And I was also listening to Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills. I was going back.
Just the bitch
So,
fest.
Damn.
Yeah, so but it was definitely getting me in the mood hard for spooky season. So I'm super excited now. And Homeward Bound was just kind of like the cheer on top. I was like, it's Halloween. Look at the autumn leaves. Yeah. So and yeah. And
show grief your fucking tits.
and then as a side to that, I was realizing I was like, holy shit, there were so many either animal movies in the 90s or sports movies, and then sometimes both, like
Oh,
Airbud. Yeah, because I was thinking
Oh
about
my God, yes, Airbud.
I was thinking about Little Giants, Big Green,
Yeah.
Mighty Ducks, and then I was
Hell
thinking
yeah.
about Free Willy, Andre, Airbud, and all those things, and I was like, man, what a fun time!
What a
with
time.
all those movies.
What a time to have been alive.
Yeah.
Now it's just
so
all Paw Patrol. The kids don't know.
animated.
It's their fault.
dog.
They're out of touch.
And
Their
Dude,
fault.
Babe was a big one in the 90s too.
Dude,
There's
Pig
a
in the
lot
City,
of animal
baby.
ones. Yeah. So
Dude, Baby's Day Out. Babies just fucking on their way
Baby
around the city. Yeah,
Geniuses.
like, look who's
Oh my God,
talking.
Baby Genius is
Dude.
man, that's a movie that I wish I
That's
could wipe
one
from
my
my brain.
my brother watched the shit out of, my younger
Honey-
brother. So
Honey, we
Fine.
blew up the kid.
dude,
A
yeah.
movie whose title does not accurately describe the film.
It does.
So yeah, that's mostly what I've been watching. It's been a pretty good week of watches. Bob, how about you? What you been watching, my guy?
A fair amount of stuff. I finally got to watch The Blackening. I went to the movie theater to watch it. And I did record a mini cast on that, so that'll be coming out soon. Pretty funny though. Overall, pretty successful. Better than I thought it was going to be. I'll say it.
Good.
I also watched this show on Netflix called Quarterback. It's like an 8-part series. It's about
hockey.
That's exactly what it's about. It's about like last year's NFL season. They follow around 3 quarterbacks, and it was produced by Peyton Manning, and they just follow like 3 quarterbacks out the whole season, and they get into like everything it takes to be a professional quarterback in the NFL, and it's super deep dive, and they interview like their wives and then their families, and
Who do they follow around?
Mahomes, fucking
Not Mahomes.
So you
Not
watched the whole
Mahomes.
series.
I
huh?
did. Kirk Cousins, just blank. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and then the dude from Hawaii. I forget his name.
From Hawaii. What team does he play for?
He was on the Falcons, and then he is
Matt
on
Ryan.
the Raiders now or
Oh
something.
no.
Yeah, he was a backup quarterback. They drafted like 2 quarterbacks in the same draft. It was a weird situation where he should have been a first round pick, ended up being like a 3rd round or something like that. So he was playing second fiddle to Matt Ryan. So they didn't focus on him as much as Cousins and Mahomes anyways.
Okay.
But those were like the 3. It was super interesting. Mahomes was definitely like the star of the show. He's they won the fucking Super Bowl. Yeah, surprising to hear, right? But it was interesting. I got a good kick out of it, and it was a nice way to sort of like get me psyched for football, which starts very, very soon.
And Old Glory waving.
It's coming.
Indeed. I watched Oppenheimer as well this weekend. And
What's that?
Yeah, no, nobody's ever heard of that.
How was it?
The new Chris Nolan joint. It was super good.
Good.
Amazing acting.
Yeah.
Great cinematography.
A sex scene, Bob.
A couple of them. It was there's a lot of nudity.
But were the yabos drawn? Because that's not gonna fly.
Just everything's real except the Yabos.
It just breaks into animation on just the sex scenes.
Only the Yabos.
Out of
They can only-
respect for the decency of the people in this theater, we won't show you real yabos.
They could only afford Florence Pugh's voice, but not her body. So everybody else is in the movie, but then there's just a drawn
go.
woman. Yeah, it was good. It's super bleak, which can be expected. Cillian
Is it a
Murphy
horror film, Bob?
did a
Would you say it's
fantastic job.
Horror film?
Cillian, Drillian, whatever.
No, it does have one scene that is full blown a horror movie though. Taken from a horror movie, and it took me off guard because the whole movie has like a very steady, like methodic kind of pace, and it's very dialogue driven, and it'll be like intercut with like these really beautiful sort of like swirling molecules and just sort of abstract stuff. That's like, I guess, what Oppenheimer sees in his mind or what it's I don't know, but then at a certain point it just makes like a hard left turn into like a full-blown horror scene.
Damn.
And it like made me clutch my pearls a little bit because it's jarring because that's not what the rest of the movie is at all. But it made me wonder, like, dude, what if Nolan just made a full-blown horror movie? Like, holy shit, it was a really effective moment.
That would be cool.
Yeah, do that, dude. Do that. I also watched the all-time classic Mac and Me because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. You going to McDonald's after?
How was that, Bob?
I had to go to McDonald's immediately after. It's fucking not particularly good, but enjoyable.
All right.
Watch it with folks.
That's all
Don't
that
watch-
matters. That's all that matters, Bob.
That is all that matters. It's a wild ET knockoff, if you're unaware. And there is a riff tracks that you can watch with it if you are so inclined. I'd probably recommend the riff tracks. It would enhance it.
It stinks.
It stinks. The last thing I watched was a movie called Sisu. Have you seen a trailer for this? Are you familiar with the movie at
I
all?
watched it. I meant to.
Sisu.
I meant to
No.
record a mini cast on it, but I haven't yet. Oops.
Oh yeah, it's
Oops.
that's a lot of noises, man. It was good. It's billed as like John Wick, but the dog doesn't die. I saw somebody say that
Bob,
somewhere. I don't know.
spoilers. Come
the
on
fuck?
now.
The dog dies. The dog gets murdered, or maybe it doesn't. I don't
I
know.
have not
exploded.
seen any of those movies.
Watch the movie. It's good action, a lot of gore, World War II movie, a lot of Nazis, just in everything
Fuck
now. Yeah, Nazis
In life
really
now. Speaking of
fucked up.
dreams, speaking of fantasy world and reality colliding. Oh no.
Oh no.
The perennial villains are back.
Oh
Yay.
no. Hey, at least it's clear who the villains are.
That's true.
Yeah, at least that.
Yeah.
At
Let's
least
get
we
into this
got
piece of
that. Dude, that's an old bump. Yeah, Sisu is pretty good. If you want an action movie, dude fucking up a lot of Nazis, check it out. A lot of gore, pretty horrific. Yeah, that's all I've been watching. We do have some voicemails this week. Let's go and get
Oh,
into our
shit.
hotline screams.
Hotline scream.
If you are listening and would like to call and leave a voicemail for next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got 2 voicemails. First up, we're hearing from the librarian. Let's see what she's got to say.
What's up, mothers and fuckers? So I'm calling not to answer the animated horror prompt because, to be honest, I don't know a lot about that. I'm calling in defense of Bo Wasserman because I am insane and saw Bo is Afraid twice in the theater. And I know I'm going to sound more insane, but I think it benefits from a second watch. Stay with me now. I know that means another 3-hour time commitment, but I really loved it after a second watch. It's honestly my favorite 2023 release, and that's only because I watched it twice, because trust me, I was with y'all after my first viewing. I was like, what the shit was that? And mind you, my first viewing was due to A24 pranking me. I showed up to the local Alamo Draft House to watch Midsummer, but instead they were like, LOL, Happy April Fools. Everyone go piss now. So, I don't know. Maybe give old Bo another shot. I'm also an Ari Aster stan, so I'm definitely biased, but yeah. Anyway, I love y'all. The bumps get more and more hysterical every episode. The timing is dead-ass perfect. Also, just for update's sake, I have read 84 books this year, and I am currently rereading Nick Cutter's The Troop, which I love. It is Lord of the Flies meets an infectious worm parasite. I cannot recommend it enough. Do not eat spaghetti while reading it. Yeah. Mwah. I love y'all immensely, so bye!
Reading maggots,
Librarian,
Michael.
I love you, but I mean, it's late July now. Only 84? I mean, I feel like we're a little low this year.
Sleeping at the wheel.
That's an insane number of books. Jesus Christ.
I want to know who eats spaghetti when they're reading anything. Is that
Oh,
happening?
Spaghetti.
I eat big bags of spaghetti wherever I am, do whatever I'm doing.
You
Just
carry
a
it
big
in a
Ziploc
bag.
of spaghetti. Yeah.
Just
that's what you do.
pounding spaghetti.
Charlie Kelly style.
You just like pour it out of the bag down your gullet. Just
No, I get a fork. I'm not an animal.
Oh,
Out
okay.
of the bag.
Okay.
I just have a nice Ziploc bag full of sketty.
There you go.
Got a
Bomb
satchel of sketty right here for my lunch.
Ooh, I do not want to rewatch Bo.
I don't either.
Even like
soon.
even like I really, enjoy Midsummer, and that's like I have to gear up to rewatch that one,
I'm not in a particular hurry to see Beau is Afraid again, but I think I'm definitely not as sour on it as you guys are. Like from what I can tell, I think there's a lot to it that you could glean. Certainly on a second viewing would make sense. I'm just not ready to make another time commitment like that when I've got so much other shit going on. But I appreciate people sticking up for it because I think it's a very unique movie, and I'm glad that we get to have those kinds of movies and not just everything as flat as it could be.
Yeah.
Well,
A24 is the only one who's going to be making movies apparently, because they're the only ones who can fucking agree to the damn. I was proud to see that. I know people throw some shade at A24 because the way they deal with horror movies, but man, good on them.
No, I don't fucking care.
If they're the only ones who are cranking out movies next year. That's fine.
If Asylum Films agreed to terms, I would be praising them just the same because it's the right thing to do. So
pay your fucking employees.
Yeah, don't steal their likenesses, you ghoulish motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers.
I don't think Beau's Afraid's a bad movie. I just did not enjoy it.
I don't think it's a bad movie either. I just can't bring myself to watch it again. Not
it's an anxiety trip.
Yeah. Sure. Maybe next year. I'll watch it again eventually, I'm sure. But like, damn.
When it comes out on Steelbook Mark III,
and it's 5.5 hours long.
When you got like the 10-year anniversary edition with an extra 3 hours
second of that fucking movie. It is long enough. Holy shit.
Buddy, not wanting it's never stopped you from buying something. I'm just telling you. The collection must grow. The monster must be fed.
Oh, Randy. You don't even know. Thanks for calling, Librarian. Always good to hear from you. Keep up the fucking reading rainbow over there. God damn, that's a lot. Good on you. We do have one more voicemail. We're actually going to hear from an anime stan. Let's see what they got to say.
Hey, boys. Just calling in to use my animated horror recommendations. I've got a couple of good ones, no movies, but some series, anime series that are pretty good. So the first one is called Another, which takes place in a middle school. It's a classroom, and it always has to have an empty desk in the class. And when the class is full, everyone dies, and basically it follows that plot line where all the seats are full, and then it basically turns into a Final Destination situation. But obviously there's just no holding back on the gore and brutality of it, which is one of the things I enjoy a lot about anime, because they don't hold back, I guess. They're not worried about the stigmas and things like that. Anyway, there's another one called Corpse Party. This one's kind of just brutal for brutal sake. Ghosts killing a bunch of kids in crazy ways. That one's just there for that. And then my favorite recommendation is called Devilman Crybaby. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix original. But it is fantastic. If you can get past the animation style, it's amazing. It pulls on your heartstrings. It's got that brutality, the horror. It's all about a guy possessed by a devil, and he starts fighting other people possessed. It's so good. But anyway, keep up the good work, boys. Sorry, I know this was rambling, but keep up the good work, guys. I love the show. Hashtag soft with soju.
Oh man,
Soft serve soju.
You gotta amp up your after dark content, Juice, so your boys can be less
Apparently, yeah. I mean, as long as that's okay with HR, that's really just my big wall.
Well,
that's
we'll run it
blocking
by.
me.
We'll run up the flagpole and see what comes back.
Sorry, Randy.
Thanks for
denied
the
it. I've got it right
recommendations.
here.
We didn't catch his name, right?
No.
didn't
I
drop
know
it
who
in.
that
Okay.
is. Do y'all
Do
know?
you?
Y'all, yeah, I think so.
I don't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, they've definitely left voicemails before, but I also, if they don't say it, like, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I know
Yeah.
who it is by name, but I
Yeah.
won't call him out.
I
But
make no
I'm pretty
assumption.
sure also that's our boy who took I think it was LSD and almost ate his wheelchair bound neighbor.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Y'all remember that story?
Dude, I do now that you mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, I had blocked that out, but
Him and a
That's
bunch
a
of
crazy
guys
story.
took like LSD, and luckily there was one sober friend that just like keep them from eating their neighbor.
Yeah.
That sober friend,
They had a babysitter that really came through.
God damn.
Yeah. That's
crazy
some
shit.
crazy voicemails on this show.
I'm pretty sure that's our boy.
Yeah,
Well,
I think you
regardless,
might
thanks
be
for the
right.
recommendations. Some of those sound nutty as hell. I feel like I gotta like check them out and see if there's like what the conceit is in more detail. I think before I land on one. But I have seen that Devil Man. I've seen that advertised a few places. It must be on Netflix, I guess, if it's a Netflix series.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
man. I watch like movies pretty much every day, and sometimes I just step back and I'm like, there's still like I don't know shit about anime
So
films.
much,
I don't know
yeah.
shit about like
Yeah.
Hong Kong films. I don't know shit about
Mhm.
like these niche. They're just like there's so much shit. It's great.
Yeah.
So much
It's
shit.
great.
There's too much media, man. Stop
Yeah.
making stuff.
Yeah,
Dude,
maybe we just need to take a
The
break.
indomitable spirit of creativity needs to fuck off.
Next year, you're gonna get what you want, man, because Hollywood's.
I'll be able to
not
catch
doing-
up next year. Oh, I forgot to mention. I'll mention it next week. Another what I've been watching. Fuck.
Yeah,
Fucking
put it
A.
on the list.
Yeah, I will.
But yeah, thanks for calling in
Added
with some
nothing to
anime.
that conversation.
With some anime recs. Maybe I'll try and check out that Devilman thing. It's on Netflix, and it seems like it was the highest recommended. So easy to come by as well. So all right, yeah.
Yeah.
Some anime, some more drawings for you, Randy, for you to.
Oh, you know how I love drool rings.
Drawings are my favorite. Yeah, again, if you guys want to call in and leave a voicemail for next week, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Do you guys have any prompts you want to throw out for next week?
What's next week? Talk to me.
Talk to me, Diddy. Yeah, new
Okay.
release in theaters.
New release. Bob and I have already seen this one at a festival. Which so I know what to expect, but I am going to prompt this question. What sort of I don't know if it's really like a sleepover parties, but what sort of like party games did you play that you think like maybe other people haven't played or whatever, haven't heard of, with your friends when they were over at night, or when you had like I don't know, you had an impromptu little party with your parents away or anything like that? If you've been in the situations like that, there's some of that going on, and talk to me. What sort of like little games do you have? Light as a feather, stiff as a board, Ouija board. Tell us about it.
Ouija. Know what that always makes me think of? Not necessarily the same, but similar idea. Is when we used to play Manhunt.
Oh yeah,
that shit was so
yeah.
fucking fun.
That was fun.
And kind of a little bit of a adrenaline trip too, because
Yeah.
we would play it around our local college campus when it was dead of night, no one around, but still unlocked.
and
for
they
some
just
reason.
didn't lock
Yeah,
shit
they
up.
didn't lock shit. Well, because it also
'Cause
had
people
some practice
studied and shit,
rooms
too.
there.
Yeah, it was-
Yeah, like
Yeah.
for some of the instruments. So
We would
every
just
now and then
haul ass
too,
through
it
the
would be
halls.
completely. It would be like 2 a.m. dark, pitch black, but then there'd be like some creepy music
tuba
practice
in the
going on. Yeah.
Blowing their horn. Yeah. He's full blown wind sprints down the hallway running from each other.
That was a big building too. It was a 2-story building. It had like a
Huge.
big stage and auditorium
With
and
grand
So many
pianos
times
and
I pressed the
Yeah.
elevator button just to cause confusion
Yeah.
and make my escape.
You
So many times.
slut.
that was fucking
am.
fun as shit.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, good
And
times.
I'd probably break my ankles, hip, and everything else just trying to fucking do that.
God damn.
I'm an old bish now.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
that's
Put me in the
young.
grave. I'm done.
that's a good prompt. I like. Yeah, if you did like a Bloody Mary or the Candy Mang chant into the mirror or whatever, let
Or if
us
you, like,
know.
If you went into a room you weren't supposed to, or dared,
Yeah.
truth or dare, any of that shit, any cool stories from anything like that, any cool games, tell us about it.
Yeah, did weird shit ever happen? I want to know about it.
Did anybody ever wig out at one of your sleepovers as a kid? Anything like that? Tell us
Yeah.
about it. I know I have night terrors, so I have been that guy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah,
Confirmed.
call in and let us know. And watch Talk to Me. Get ready for next week's show. In theaters this weekend. It's a new A24 horror movie. Speaking of A24, Australian directors. Check it out. It's Randy mentioned we already saw it. It's worth watching. We'll say that,
Mhm.
and we'll talk more about it next week. Until then, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Spicy.